You have a predator living in your house right now. It hunts. It stalks. It has claws built for killing and a brain wired for it too. And you gave it a bed, a bowl, and free rent. 10,000 years ago, that same animal was crouched in the dark, just outside a fire, watching you. Not approaching. Watching. Because back then, you were the dangerous one. So what changed? How did a solitary desert predator with zero interest in cooperation end up curled on your lap tonight? The answer has almost nothing to do with humans deciding to keep a pet. It has everything to do with mice, grain, and a party you didn't know you were throwing. For most of human history, this never could have happened. Hunter-gatherers moved constantly. They didn't stockpile food in one place. And a wildcat has no use for a species that doesn't sit still long enough to attract prey. Humans and wildcats shared the same land for hundreds of thousands of years and nothing changed, because neither side had anything the other wanted. Then, around 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, humans discovered agriculture. They planted seeds. They stayed put. And they started storing grain. In pits, in clay jars, in the first buildings humans ever built to hold food instead of people. That grain did something unplanned. It attracted mice. Not a few mice, a population explosion of them, fast enough to threaten an entire season's food supply. For a brand new farming settlement, this wasn't a minor nuisance. It was existential. If you can't protect stored grain, agriculture doesn't work. Enter Felis sylvestris libica, the North African wildcat, the direct genetic ancestor of every house cat alive today. It looked almost exactly like a modern tabby, minus any interest in affection. And it was an elite rodent-killing machine. Retractable claws, explosive short-range speed, a stalking patience that borders on obsessive. It wasn't doing humans a favor. It was doing what it was built to do. The humans just happened to benefit. They noticed. The mice were disappearing. And a very simple calculation followed. Don't chase this thing away. That single decision, tolerance instead of hostility, is where everything starts. Researchers call this relationship commensalism. One species benefits, the other isn't harmed, and nobody's controlling anybody's breeding. The cats stayed wild. They just got comfortable being nearby. Here's the part almost nobody connects to this story: ancient nightlife. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent decades studying the Jew/Hoansi Bushmen of Botswana and Namibia, and she found a real shift between day and night. Daytime conversation was mostly practical. About a third of it was storytelling. The rest was economic and social business, resolving disputes, planning the next day. But once the fire was lit at night, that flipped hard. Over 80% of conversation became stories, music, and dance. Ancient humans partied at night, not with nightclubs, but with fire, noise, laughter, and company. At Göbekli Tepe in modern Turkey, hunter-gatherers gathered for large communal feasts, and chemical residue on stone vessels there has produced tentative, though still debated, evidence of beer brewing. Fermented beverage residue found in stone mortars at Rakefet Cave in Israel dates back roughly 13,000 years, before agriculture had even fully taken hold. Fire, noise, food smells, a crowd too loud and distracted to chase off a small animal at the edge of the light. From a wildcat's perspective, this was close to perfect. Insects drawn to the fire attracted small mammals. The mice were abundant near the grain, and the human commotion kept larger predators away. Night after night, the cats crept a little closer, not out of affection, but because the environment was quietly, perfectly built for them. And this is where the domestication story breaks every rule. Dogs, cattle, sheep, horses, all shaped by centuries of humans deliberately choosing which animals to breed. Cats did the opposite. They selected themselves. The individuals with naturally lower fear of humans stuck around the settlements and thrived. The nervous ones fled back to the wild. Generation after generation, the population near humans skewed calmer, bolder, more tolerant, without a single human ever choosing a breeding pair. The grain, the mice, and the noisy firelit nights did the selecting. This process is called self-domestication, and it's the reason cats are fundamentally different from every other animal humans live with. The final shift, from tolerated pest control to companion, almost certainly came down to children. Kittens born near a settlement grew up hearing human voices and smelling human food from birth, wired into a completely different fear response than a wild-born kitten. And human children did what children have always done with small, non-threatening animals. Picked them up, fed them, played with them. That repeated, low-stakes contact is very likely what pushed the relationship from tolerated to loved. We have direct proof of how far that bond went. At Shiller-o-Cambos in Cyprus, archaeologists found a human buried around 9,500 years ago with a cat deliberately placed beside them. Cyprus has no native wildcats. Someone carried this cat across open water on purpose. Someone valued it enough to bring it to a new home, and valued it enough to be buried with it. That's not pest control. That's grief. And here's the detail that makes this story genuinely different from every other domestication story. Cats never really finish the process. Genetically and physically, a house cat is nearly identical to its wild ancestor. Same skeleton, same hunting instincts, same territorial behavior. What actually changed was social tolerance, plus one new trick, the meow. Adult wild cats barely use it on each other. It's largely a behavior domestic cats developed specifically to communicate with us, because it works. A dog abandoned in the wild struggles to survive. It was bred over thousands of years to need human structure. A cat abandoned in the wild does fine. It hunts. It manages. It was never made dependent. It simply decided the arrangement was worth it. So the real story isn't that humans tamed cats. It's that humans accidentally built the perfect trap: grain, mice, firelight, noise, and a group too distracted to say no. And a wild predator walked into it on its own terms and never really left. Somewhere in your home right now, there's an animal running on the same instincts as that cat crouched at the edge of the fire 10,000 years ago. It didn't come because you invited it. It came because you had mice and a party.